Let's welcome Andrew Coppolino.
Oh, that was lovely. I don't know that I need to say anything more. Well, it's a great privilege for me to be here. It's an honor to be able to talk about food. It's an honor to be able to talk to fellow food lovers, and it's an honor to be amongst a great group like yours. I've bought many a book from the bookshelf, so it's nice to be able to see you. I didn't really have any idea what it was. My dad told me there's a great book sale on, go down and get some books. So I went down and I got a bunch of books, and I said, yeah, and he says, and can you pick me up some? He was in Florida at the time. And he gave me this long list of books, and I said, sure, I can do that. So I go in, and there were so many books. And I said, what are you thinking? It's going to take me 4 hours to get through all of this. So I persevered. I did find about 2 of the 8 or 10 selections that he wanted. And we just want to make sure that just a little bit about me. I think you can't say anything about food in Waterloo region or anywhere without saying that you're local, so I just want to proclaiming that I'm local. That's a catchword, a buzzword, a catchphrase that everyone uses. I'm a lot like you, though. I have hopes, and I have dreams, and I have fears. Mostly I hope that I can eat some more food, and I dream about food, and I often have fears that I eat too much food. But I am very, very lucky. I've been able to blend an avocation, a hobby, basically, what for some people, into a vocation, a way to make a living, and it's been a great, great privilege. Can you guys hear at the back? Just yeah, okay, good. A couple of people at my table were asking me about. I'll probably go off script here a number of times, and I apologize if it does ramble somewhat. Elaine spoke so eloquently and set up this smorgasbord ruse that we'll have to somehow pull that one together now, Elaine. How did I get into this business? I didn't intend to get into this business. I was an academic most of my life, and it's only been in the last 15 years or so that I started in this food pathway. But it's very interesting when I look back. I remember a very distinct moment. I probably would have been about 15 or 16. My parents are great cooks. They love to cook. We never ate McDonald's. We didn't get any of those kinds of things. It was all home cooking, and my parents were both very good cooks. And we were standing at the kitchen sink once doing dishes with my father, and I can't figure that out because my father's a psychiatrist, so you don't get too close to him very often, right? You're best not to, because something you say usually comes out again at a family gathering in the next couple of years. Anyway, we were standing at the dishes, doing the dishes. I was drying, blah, blah, blah. What do you want to do with your life, he says. And I think, oh, geez, I don't know. And I said, I really don't know. I guess I'll go to the university. And he says, well, why don't you go to France? I'll send you to a restaurant. We'll find a restaurant, and I'll help you find a place to go and learn how to cook. And like an idiot, I said, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to play soccer. I want to stay with my friends here. And I kicked myself when I look back on that moment. But it came to be many, many years later that I did get a chance to cook, quite accidentally. I was in the restaurant business. In between degrees, I was doing some odd jobs. And one of those jobs was to deliver linen, like this stuff, to a restaurant. And the restaurant I delivered to was that one there, 20 King. So very brashly, I walked in and I said, I know how to cook, and I'd like to cook in this kitchen. Could I do that? And they said, I thought they were joking. They said, yeah, our apprentice is leaving next September. Would you come back and apply for it? So I went and I applied for it, and I got the job. I never cooked before in my life. I thought I'd be chopping vegetables or stuff like that. So Lori Maidlow, she's a great, great cook. She's at Rush's and the Waterloo Inn right now. Huge respect for her. She's a wonderful woman and a great, great cook and a great teacher. Anyway, she took me under her wing and she taught me as her apprentice for 2 years. And I learned so much in that little bit of time. I learned a lot about life as well. But I couldn't do it. It was too hard work. I had little kids, and it's a really backbreaking kind of job. Financially, it was a strain as well. But from that moment, I decided that I wasn't going to go back to academics. I spent another couple of years finishing up a degree and left with a third degree incomplete. And I started on this freelance career after I was working at the University of Guelph for several years. So that's really how I got into it, quite by accident. But I had a wonderful, wonderful time in those 2 years, 60 hours a week, $4.50 an hour as an apprentice. I'm serious. That was in the 90s sometime. So it's a backbreaking and a tough job, but I have huge, huge respect for these people. And that's kind of what I brought to my job. I wanted you people that were maybe not so familiar with the restaurant industry, to get a bit of a picture and a bit of an idea of what was happening behind the scenes in local restaurants, and what these chefs do, and the hard work that goes into putting food on your table. So that's how I sort of got into the job. I've had those appointments regularly. I go weekly, Kitchener Post, blah, blah, blah. I also want to put in into a larger context, I'm sorry, that's probably too small to see at the back, isn't it? Is it okay? See, yeah, you're agreeing with me. It's a hard, tough audience. The Canadian food industry is itself extremely difficult, but it's an extremely important one as well. There are, they estimate, about 1 million direct employees working in food service. These young ladies that were helping us today are probably among that number. The annual sales are something like $80 billion. It's a huge, huge industry. There's just no doubt about it. And it's a very important industry in this region as well. They say for every dollar spent in a restaurant, $1.85 is spent elsewhere in the economy. So it's critical to our economic and social well-being that we have a strong restaurant industry. Those are Stats Canada and Canadian Restaurant and Food Association statistics. The Waterloo region food culture is one that I know fairly well now after 15 or so years, and I do see it as a unique food environment. One I think that's starting to make major contributions to the food culture of the province and the country. And I just enumerated here a few things that I think you'll understand as people who are interested in food. We have this Edna Stabler factor, food that really smacks. I mean, she is the backbone of the culinary, and I'll point out a restaurant later that sort of grows out of her tradition. An amazing woman, an amazing author, an amazing cookbook writer, and she really added a lot of complexity to the tapestry, I guess, of food in Waterloo region. So kudos to her for helping us out and really forming the backbone, I think, of our culture. We have a great field-to-table culture. It's becoming more and more prevalent that people are connecting with farmers, the restaurants are connecting with farmers, bringing that produce to the table that they're serving customers like you and I. That's another factor, I think, key indicator of our food culture here in the region. We have great farmers markets, whether it's Waterloo, whether it's a little Cambridge one, or whether it's a downtown Kitchener one. Great farmers markets, another indicator of the wonderful food culture that we have. These are strong organizations. The Waterloo Market has been, St. Jacobs Market has been around for quite a while. The Kitchener Market has been around for, I don't know, 80 years, 100 years. It's hugely successful. The upstairs part is the problematic one. The downstairs part is the actual vendors, food vendors for produce, and that's the really strong factor. We have great organizations, community shared agriculture programs, the Food System Roundtable, a great organization that runs out of the Regional Waterloo Health Department. The Working Center in downtown Kitchener teaches people how to cook. It gives the skills of the kitchen to people that are underemployable, shall we say. It gives them a skill, gives them training. And they make money and they sell food and they do a good job. Our ethnic diversity too. I heard a hint of it from somebody tonight, I can't remember. But it's exactly right. Our ethnic diversity is spreading in this region, and it's creating a wonderful food culture that we didn't have maybe 7, 8, 10 years ago. Not to my belief, anyway. So we have a lot to look forward to. We've got a lot that we have right now, and I think it's going to get better in the near future. We have great water here. So I want to take you on a little road trip. Elaine and I sort of confabbed up this little title here, and I'm going to take you on a little road trip throughout the region. The culinary interactions far and near, what makes the good better and the better best in the Waterloo region. So I hope by the end of this you've got an idea of what I think are good. You may agree, you may disagree with me, and that's just great. We should have the conversation. But what can we do to maybe make things a little bit better? There's a circle in the middle there, and this is the region of Waterloo. I like to think of our region as the farmers that hug us. And if you look at the cities in the middle, Kitchener-Waterloo and Cambridge, then there's this sort of these arms of townships that are sort of hugging us. Now, that's not particularly profound, and no one, that camera there is going to think that I made this up or something. I mean, it's not particularly profound because when you think about any demographic or any geographic system, obviously the cities are somewhat in the center and the outlying farm areas. But isn't it neat the way you sort of think about the hugging of the farmers? And this is what I think makes this region fairly unique as well, that we have such a close proximity to the farmers that we get food from. We're minutes away. Talk to somebody in Toronto. They don't have that. They don't understand that I can be at the corner of King and Queen in downtown Kitchener having an apple strudel at a restaurant, and in 10 minutes I can be in the farmer's field, Martin's apples, that apple came from. I mean, that's just amazing, and we're so lucky that we have that. So as we start out on this little road trip, we're going to start in Waterloo. And I wanted to start with this restaurant called Uptown 21. Nick Benninger has done an amazing job. The guy's not 40 yet, and they've built a hugely successful restaurant from the idea of real food. What he does is take the Edna Stabler principles, some of the Edna Stabler principles, and flavors, sorry, and blends them into a very, very unique restaurant that is one of a kind in the region, I believe, but it also has huge play in Toronto. People know about his restaurant in Toronto, and that's sort of eyes on this region. That's good for us in terms of food, it's good for us in terms of business. So we'll start at Uptown 21. And it's one of many independent restaurants that I think are the marker of successful business and restaurant industry in Waterloo region. The way he's done this is through smart marketing. He's a very smart guy when it comes to marketing. He knows how to reach people, he knows how to talk to people. He knows that he doesn't need to buy expensive newspaper ads. He talks to people directly through social media, through Twitter primarily, through word of mouth, and through building a reputation as somebody who cooks from the heart, with passion, simply, with great flavors and great value. So it's sort of I guess the restaurant for me in Waterloo region. That's the restaurant that's got the most of everything going for it. It's simple, it's accessible to everybody, it's successful for him, and he's got a new one coming up, a new restaurant coming out as well. Other independents, we have some very, very unique restaurants, and I think one of the most unique restaurants in all of southwestern Ontario is Bima's Warung. How many people know it? Oh, great, I don't have to explain it to you then, we can move on. I really do. I think that Paul does an amazing job there. He had a restaurant in Bali for many, many years. He lives there. He understands what the food is about. It can be a little bit expensive at times, but what I recommend doing is going and buying a bunch of appetizers and getting a whole wide sampling of everything he does. Very interesting Indonesian food, quirky, kind of looks like a little tiki kind of place inside. There's just some really interesting stuff going on there, and we're really lucky to have his restaurant with us. The Beer Town and Red House. The Red House is a new restaurant at the old Yukiko's. And the reason I've got these two together is Dan McCowan was a chef with the Charcoal. And the reason I mentioned the Charcoal is because the Charcoal group of restaurants has done an enormous amount of job training culinary talent, bringing culinary talent along and getting them to grow in this region and produce more great restaurants. And that's what the Red House is. Beer Town is another great example of a marketing niche that company has picked off just perfectly. These things are going to go across Canada now, and they all started right here in Waterloo region. King Street Trio, another great restaurant in downtown Waterloo. Brian has also got King Crab Oyster Bar on River Road and Victoria. Again, a unique model, simple, independent, and he's just sticking it out, slogging it out in a penny's business all by himself, and he's really worked hard to develop his clientele. Frat Burger, I don't know if you've ever been to Frat Burger. It's a burger joint right across from the Laurier Athletic Complex. Basic, old-style diner hamburgers, so no great big bun and no gigantic patty. It's like small little hand-pressed patties that you might make yourself. They grind the meat there, 3 different cuts of meat every day. They grind into little balls, and I've watched them do it. They pat it down, they put it on a flat top. They take a basic Wonder Bun, and you add your condiments after that. Starts at, I think, $4.99, and you add condiments after that. So you can get a very good, smallish kind of burger for $6 or $7. And that's owned partially by Jim Brickman, who started the Brick Brewing Company. So another really unique business that I think captured the popular imagination of what people want. These are like old style, real hamburgers from the old days. A lot healthier though, I think. Death Valley's little brother, has anybody ever been there? It's a really funky coffee shop in Waterloo. They got great coffee there. They do pour-overs, the special coffee that goes right through the cone, and you watch them do it. They do espressos and all that kind of stuff. But it's just got a really nice vibe to it, and they spin vinyl after hours too. If you want to have a scotch, and they pull out record albums, they put it on a turntable, and they play music like we used to have, not stuff that's on this thing, you know. It's like a record, for goodness sakes. I wanted to point out Taco Farm is Nick Banger's new restaurant coming up on the corner of Irv and King, where Hadasha Jewelers is. There's a little building in there, and he went down to California and he bought $25,000 worth of tortilla press machinery, and he's going to be making 800 tacos. I can make 800 tacos in a day or something, and he's going to churn out tortillas and fresh, and it's going to be like they get 3 little tortillas for I can't tell what the prices are, but very inexpensive, very real. And he said he's eaten something like 800 different tacos while he's on his travels. Trying to get the right amount